All right, we got a good topic today. Let me get out here and get situated here. Oh yeah, good. Need a little more breeze. Well, I did it again. You know, somehow my manners online are not the best sometimes, but no, I was just referring to Facebook. Sometimes I get like a little maybe too emotional on Facebook, but I got triggered on Facebook, and it wasn't a bad interaction or anything, but this issue about f-stops in interiors work. So it came up, somebody was wanting more light. I better turn this down a little bit. Somebody was wanting more light in their photography, and they were looking for a new light, you know, looking for a more powerful light. Leave the music on for some ambiance here. And they were wanting to get like an AD300 or an AD400 or maybe even a 600. Which, if you're watching this video, the guy who posted that question, get this 600. All right, so the first thing I told him was, you're probably shooting at f8 or f11, right? Because he's having problems with power, his lighting power. So this reminds me exactly of my window pull video, where when I told people not to do window pull specific frames, where I'll be right about the topic, but being right doesn't matter nowadays. In fact, I think being right is actually a detriment. You know, it doesn't matter when you're right. So like, if you look at what are some examples we have today about this, like if a politician comes out and says, you know, we're gonna have to raise your taxes, he's probably right, but he's not popular, right? He's probably gonna be right. So people don't like popular, people don't like correct information. They just don't. People like to hear what they want to hear. So the thing about this is, you should want to hear this, so it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense. So everyone is shooting at f8, f11. This is like a time-honored advice in real estate photography. Let me tell you right now, it's wrong. I'll come right out and say it. And it does depend, this is getting a little technical, but it does depend on if you're shooting crop or full frame or even micro four thirds. And I would say the ironic thing here is, I'd say micro four thirds and crop, I'd even favor them for real estate photography, because you can shoot a little bit more. I think the factors technically end up like, what would you call it? Knocking each other out. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's just talk about people shooting at f8 and where I think that came from. Now, f8 is very safe. It doesn't matter if you're shooting crop or whatever. f8 is very safe. And a long time ago, there were very good books that came out that said, you know, the books probably assumed these people were using kit lenses, you know, kind of slow lenses, lenses that probably had the slowest aperture of f5.6. Kit lenses are never going to be their best at f5.6, their most bright aperture, right? They're always going to be the best at, say, f8. So these books would sort of steer people into, because these beginners books, they're not meant for experts, right? That's what all you are, though. You're expert. You're a professional real estate photographer. So these books were telling people, well, you got this lens. They don't say this, but you got this kit lens. We want you to shoot at f8 if you don't really care about your f-stop. So it became sort of common knowledge over the decades, like, oh, shoot at f8 if you're not really worried about your f-stop, because that's going to be where your lens is performing the best. Well, actually, faster lenses perform better at, say, f5.6. You know, if faster the lenses usually perform their best stop down about one stop from their widest open aperture. So it just depends on how good a lens you have. The good lenses are going to perform well at f8. But the point here is, if you're doing interiors photography, you're wasting all that light. You're going to f8, and you might have a little bit of slower lens, so you might say, oh, well, you know, I have a little slow lens. My lens is an f4 lens. Well, you know, you can check it out. Maybe there's some charts about your lens. What is the sharpest aperture? It might be f8. So I agree, that would be a legitimate reason to shoot at f8 if your lens is legitimately quite a bit sharper, especially for our work on the corners. I'd say that's a good reason. All right, that's a good reason to maintain that sharpness throughout, even on your corners. Okay, it just so happens, for example, take me, I shoot with a Tokina 11-16. It's not even the sharpest at f8, it's the sharpest at f5.6. So one of the points of this video is that information has been sort of handed down. You know, shoot at f8, shoot at f11 for interiors. It's been sort of handed down and people haven't thought about it at all. Because, you know, I shoot all my photos for real estate photography at 11 millimeters on the focal length. So what that means is it's very wide, and you can go into a depth of field calculator and you can see you're only playing with the depth of field that's right, you know, when if you were to actually start taking notice of this, you know, my hand is, you know, maybe I'm a couple feet from the camera here. The only spot that going from f8 to f5.6 is going to affect your focus or depth of field, because that's a big argument, right? You're losing depth of field when you go down to f5.6. Well, it's right, like right here. Like when do you have, what are you putting, like a tree in the foreground or something? And even if you did, what, it doesn't need to be in focus, right? So anyway, sometimes there is stuff very close to the camera, and the thing is, well, as you shoot through an entire house all day, you're going to f8, you're sacrificing your lighting power is getting halved. You'd have double the lighting power if you went down to 5.6. So even if you don't agree with me and you want those little couple inches right here, you want a little bit more depth of field right here, because that back, it doesn't matter. You got to go to a depth of field calculator. I'm not going to go all into it right now, but as long as you're focused on something about 8 or 10 feet away, this is the only area you're improving in. You might get, say, at 5.6, you're getting a little out of focus maybe right here. Well, at f8, it's like right here. It's just ridiculous. It's nothing. You never have like something hanging over into the camera right there. You never have that, okay? And even if you did, I'm telling you, you know, just stop down for that one shot. So that's gonna, what that's gonna do is it's relative to f8, and some people I see them report they're shooting f11. You're gonna get double, quadruple if you're shooting at f11 of the light power out of your flashes now that you've done that. And you're not gonna lose anything, okay? We don't care about focus. I know it's hard to judge for you the distance, but it's, I don't know, a couple feet. We don't care about that. We're not putting stuff that's important right here. We're not, okay? When do you have, what do you put, gonna put like a toaster right here or something in half the photo? Oh yeah. What? I want to see the argument. Like sometimes there's like a little couch, couch maybe in the foreground, or maybe a pillow, maybe something, and yeah, maybe you want to get that a little sharper. Maybe you do. I don't think it matters, but maybe you want it to be a little sharper, okay? So go ahead and stop down on those particular photos, and you're going to be saving up to quadrupling. You know what that means? That means you're getting 2 stops of light out of your flashes. So much better way. I think people should be discussing this more than their ISO, because they have a lot of play here and they're not discussing it. They're discussing all anybody wants to discuss is, oh, I got this new camera and I can go up to ISO 800. Well, that's great. Oh, good for you. I think this topic is what people should be discussing, that they can open up more on their aperture. This is the real topic. You can actually get a cleaner photo and open up, and if I think that's the real pure way to do it, because we're not losing anything, okay? Yeah, so people are wrong. You know, you can see this nowadays, and I think it's the biggest case in the history of the world. A lot of people are wrong about a lot of things, and it's just like the advice is just, it's maybe too simple and it's wrong, okay? So what I'm telling you is correct. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't help me at all. It doesn't help my channel at all that I'm correct, but it is correct, okay? So I would say take home messages here try out f5.6. I'd say if you have a full frame camera, it might be a little bit borderline in maybe tight little bathrooms, but you can just adjust your focus in those cases. So if there is something in the foreground and you're on full frame system, maybe you want to go to f8 on those really tighter shots. I think that's perfectly legit, but you want that double the lighting power from your flashes. So you're going to want to go through the house generally on f5.6. The thing I really want to encourage you here is don't even listen to me. Use your own head. Go down to f4 and try it. Who knows? Maybe you're gonna like that result even more, and you're gonna be getting even more power out of your lights, right? And so I've just found that that's where I like my lens. I think thinking for yourself and doing little experiments for yourself, I think going down to f4 and playing with that and sort of realizing, especially if you're on a full frame camera, oh, this is sort of borderline, you know, I don't want to really get into this f4 area. And you see that, and you see why. You compare two photos, f4 and f8, same photo in your kitchen, and you're saying to yourself, you know what, this is getting a little soft up here, I focused in the middle, you know, something like this. So we want to be thinking for ourselves. We don't want to just be taking information from who knows where and saying, this is it, this is what I'm going to do for the next 50 years, right? We want to decide ourselves. That I want to be in charge, me, not some asshole. Who knows who that guy was decided that, you know? I don't care. I don't care who it is. I don't care how good he was. I don't care anything. I want to decide for myself. And I might decide that f8 is right, you know, then that would be great. Okay, I agree with that now. Go forward, and for the next 40 years, shoot f8. But I guarantee you, if you really get in there and do what I say, you're gonna find f5.6 is more of the sweet spot in terms of, you know, depending on your lens. It's highly dependent on your lens, but you gotta compare two photos in maybe your kitchen and your bathroom, shoot them at both at f5.8 and then f5.6. Look at them on your computer, zoom in a little bit, do what you got to do, and I guarantee you, you know, you're going to be getting more lighting power, and the photo's not going to be looking any different, especially the way we present the photos in the MLS and stuff. And so, you know, even if your lens is a little bit sharper at f5.8, I really think I went through a whole sharpening lesson on Patreon a couple months ago, and man, you could get back that little bit of sharpness so nicely with some good sharpening techniques. And that doesn't mean Lightroom sliders. That's like getting in there with some nicer techniques in Photoshop. Okay, the sharpening looks so much better when you do it properly. The sharpening in Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom, that's not, I don't even see that as sharpening anymore after I did that lesson, because you can make things look so nice. So once again, even if you do go a little bit softer at 5.6, maybe you're getting that extra lighting power, right? That's gonna make maybe make your photos a little bit more sharp anyway, because you have more lighting power, and you can use those more sophisticated sharpening techniques in Photoshop. Like the one I ended up really liking was Smart Sharpen. That's really nice, okay? And you can mask it and sort of sharpen what you want. All right, so play with that. My advice is f5.6 is probably like a really good sweet spot, maybe a little bit darker than that for slower lenses, okay, kit lenses or whatever. All right, so it's just something to play with. Just know that that advice really is not correct, okay? It's more of a, there's more to it than that. It has to do with your lens, it has to do with what you're going for, it has to do with, is there something right in the foreground, okay? There's more to it than just somebody said a number, and I've been doing this 10 years. Somebody said f8, and that's what I've shot every single photo at for the last 10 years. That's I don't agree with, okay? What I agree with is think for yourself, try some stuff out for yourself, get in there, give what I told you a try, and come up with the number yourself, and you know, I think you'll do great.